to the Gaming Discourse. I'm Tyler Frater alongside Richard D. the Cruz.
Hello.
And Chief Engineer, the Lieutenant Commander, Connor Frater.
Good evening.
It is Monday, July 1st, 2024. YouTube.com/The Gaming Discourse. Patreon.com/The Gaming Discourse. You can support us for $247, $10. Get your name in the video credits, early access to our videos, access to our Discord server, and more. Gaming Discourse FM for Richard's weekly radio show. I want to apologize off the bat, Richard. Couple months ago, I sent you some texts that veered into maybe becoming inappropriate. It was about your luscious hair.
Oh, okay.
And I just wanted to get that out of here, clear the air, so we're good.
Sure.
Got to cancel Tyler.
Is there anything you want to say, Richard?
Thank you so much. Please don't ever message me again.
Okay. Sorry. Stupid internet humor joke.
It can't be as bad as
I'm not on TikTok, so. We have news. We have games. Richard, you played a little bit of.
I played 3 different games this week. I played 20 Minutes Till Dawn, which is a Vampire Survivor type game. And it's more interactive than Vampire Survivors is. Okay. In the sense that, like, Vampire Survivors, you just kind of have to dodge enemies and then, get rolls. 20 Minutes Till Dawn, you actually have to actively point where you want to shoot and then, pull a trigger to shoot.
So it's more of a twin stick shooter almost.
Yeah, I would put it that way. Less autonomous, but yeah, more like a twin stick shooter. You have a bunch of different characters. I think you have 14 or 15 characters, I think. And then you have, I believe, 8 different types of weapons, which of course all do different things. And of course it's a new kind of pseudo addiction. I play it here and there. Its art style is really nice, but I do think that its pixel art style or its aesthetic itself can make it hard to see. And I think that's where like some of the difficulty comes from, because the game takes place 20 minutes until dawn. So everything is pitch black kind of. So the only thing you're seeing is something on the character is red. The main character, like her scarf is red, so you see the red scarf. But all the enemies, you will only see like the 2 dots for their eyes, and they're coming towards you. As they get closer, you do see them more because you do have like a little light surrounding you. But otherwise, it plays almost exactly the same. You have more environmental dangers, though. At least the only level that there is so far that I've unlocked is the forest, and the trees there are living. So you can damage them, but you can't touch them. Otherwise, they damage you.
Oh, interesting.
And they have an eyeball that like kind of like blinks every now and again. Towards the end of I think the last 3 minutes, I believe, of a stage, they start to move. They'll start to like walk around and like kind of dance around and chase you as well, along with all the other enemies. But I think I like how this operates a little more because your upgrades that you get are never ending. In Vampire Survivors, your upgrades end, and you can only get either chicken or money. In this instance, they don't end, so you keep getting upgrades for everything that you have. And if you have maxed out something, there will just be a different upgrade you can choose.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's very neat. I had a point last night, first time beating a level where I have a flame cannon that shoots out, basically a flamethrower, and I had it to the point where I could shoot it forward, and I had an upgrade ability that shot behind me once. Then I had another ability where if I shoot in between this like lens that circles around me, it causes double damage. All the while I have like a bunch of different summons around me, like circling around, attacking all the enemies. I was almost untouchable. I still had to pay attention, but. Of course, you have bosses that come out every now and again, but it's another fun Vampire Survivors type of game that's I think on sale for like $2.99. I think that's why I picked it up.
Oh wow!
So it was just like, awesome. Yeah, sure, why not? I started playing RoboCop Rogue City. I'm a big fan of all those like 80s movies, RoboCop, Terminator, Rambo, etc. And Nacon, whoever the developer is, who developed Terminator Resistance, developed this RoboCop Rogue City. And it is awesome. It is really, really good. And I'm so happy that like a developer kind of understands what specifically RoboCop is and what these movies are, you know. Much like I don't know if you saw the the Indiana Jones trailer from the Xbox.
I've seen bits and pieces of it, not the latest
If you
one.
watch the whole thing, at a certain point you're kind of like, wow, they just straight up made a movie, didn't they? Yeah, and this one is very interesting because I don't know, I think it takes place after the second movie, which I was geeking out to my wife because there's a part where you're looking at RoboCop and his partner Lewis are looking at a TV screen, and it goes out, but in the reflection, it's Alex Murphy. It's not RoboCop. It's Alex Murphy.
Oh,
and I was like, oh my god,
okay.
cool! Because I'm gonna get in a little bit of lore here. In the second movie, it's not great, but the one interesting thing about it is that it battles with his human brain fighting with the robot side, and so he's remembering himself. So they're continuing to do that a little more. So you have different things have happened to him, like in the first level, that cause short circuiting, and they also did that very well because there's a part where you are chasing after the enemy of the first level, and a trap goes off, and you fall down, and you end up hitting your head. And as you are encountering the final villain of the level, he has somebody hostage. It's a woman, but as you're looking at her, it's Murphy's wife, and he's like kind of having this like short circuit thing. And it causes friction because someone is recording at that time. And of course it gets sent to the media, and the media is like, oh, can we trust RoboCop? But I'm really glad they leaned into that aspect of RoboCop's character. And they did a really neat, and I had to point it out, geeked out to my wife again as well. When his partner asks if he's okay, he kind of turns to her like just slightly, and his head is kind of doing this, like just very slightly, but they paid so much attention to it because in the movie he does that as well. And it was just this really cool thing. Really cool detail that they remembered from the movies. It is funny when you're walking around levels because the way you level up is by completing missions, of course, but you have to complete missions based off of like when you breach doors, you like kill enemies before they can take out hostages, you get more points. But you can pick up evidence throughout the level, and they'll give you like 25 plus like XP bonus. But they're so funny because it's just like, oh, this purse was stolen. Like, oh, this is incriminating evidence. Like, oh, this is nuke, the drug that they use in RoboCop. Nuke, like, is just nuke is lying around. So finding all of those is very funny because they're just kind of in like really odd places. It's like, oh, I'm in the basement of this news station, and there's just a stolen wallet there. It's just a stolen wallet. So it's very, very, very impressive, and I can't wait to play more of it. And of course, the last game I started playing, you guys know a little bit about. I only played a tiny bit of it, so please don't.
I want 6 hours of Baldur's Gate 3.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Right
started
now.
playing Baldur's Gate 3.
How much did you play?
I did not play very much. Like just over an hour.
So you just got through the
character
creation.
I basically just got Gale.
Okay.
I'm not a character creation person, so I'm like, yeah, that looks great, awesome. I mean, classes and stuff, like I'll choose, but yeah, like how my character looks, like, do they look handsome or pretty? Cool, let's go. Like, I'm done. So yeah.
To be fair, there's not a ton of customization.
I'm a little surprised by that.
Yeah.
But
Mostly in the hair.
Yeah, mostly in the hair, but there was enough. But I played, and I think that I don't think I played D&D for several years now. I know that you've played a lot more than I have, but I don't think people really, and I don't know how close Baldur's Gate is, but the visualization of some of the things in the D&D world, seeing it in Baldur's Gate 3 is, I feel, a little insane. So like the Mind Flayer ship, for instance, in like the CG cutscenes, the way he has to control the ship itself is some of the like coolest ideas I've ever seen, like connecting the tentacles and then like thwonging it to like go into a different dimension. I was really, really excited and stoked to see all of that, especially with all the like dragons and the Githyanki. Yeah, the Githyanki, like chasing after them. It was very awesome, and I had to kind of contain my excitement as I played because so many things were happening very quickly that were exciting, especially in the end of the first mission where you have to get to the control panel to leave. And I took a little bit too long, and the two demons like spawn and like just start dashing your way, and I'm like, oh fuck, you know. And thankfully I get to the end, and you get out of that ship, which brings me to my first point of like how much of a deviation there could be between gameplays, because my wife played right after me because we're going to share an account and she's excited to play. She found a little brain in the ship that I didn't.
Yeah, she found us.
Yeah, she found us. Yeah, she found us. And I didn't find it. And she talked to another friend and they didn't find it either. But knowing that she had an extra help at that end fight, she never encountered the champions who like came through. She got to the panel quickly enough. It was very cool to see, and it was more exciting. I don't feel this way usually. It was more exciting watching her play Baldur's Gate 3 because of seeing what choices she's going to make, but also the fact that she only has like a little less than baseline knowledge of D&D. I had to help her with classes to understand like this is what this person does and whatnot. She chose I chose Rogue. I'm Rogue. And she chose a cleric.
Okay.
Cleric. I forgot what it was called. Like a village person? Not a village person.
For the origin or whatever?
Yeah. Like, yeah.
I don't remember.
Guild artisan, folk hero.
Guild artisan.
Oh,
Guild artisan.
okay.
Yeah. She chose guild artisan. She was already mad because she also gets stressed at like decisions, or not decisions, but like how she gets stressed at decision, but she gets stressed at how her character is, and she was worried about her low intelligence. And of course, one of the first things is an intelligence check. And she's like, God damn it! And she's like, do I got to make a whole other character again? And I'm like, no, please don't do this. You're gonna ruin yourself. Just you are what you are. Please keep going. So that's very fun, but It's so good so far. Like I have Lae'zel,
yeah.
Lae'zel, sorry. I have Shadowheart, and I just grabbed Gale, and I just finished talking to him for the first time, and I saved, and I was like, okay, I'm going to come back to this.
Nice.
So I haven't done much. I haven't died, thankfully. I do think the controller controls are pretty good. I think they did a good job with that. But I did let my wife take the Steam Deck so she can play it on her job wherever she's going, and it's downloading right now on my PC, and I'll just play it on my PC. Very excited to play Baldur's Gate 3. Been on my mind ever since getting out of that ship at the beginning.
Nice.
I can't wait.
A lot of people, their favorite act. There's 3 acts in the game. A lot of people, their favorite act is Act 1.
Yeah.
That's when you're like discovering everything, and you're meeting all the companions, and
which you meet them fairly. I didn't expect to meet so many so quickly. Well, I mean, it's like 3 out of however many, but
there's like the main companions that you'll meet pretty quickly. Then there's other companions that you'll meet later on that aren't necessarily the main ones, and they're they're not a secret, but they can be like you kind of have to know how to get them into your party or whatever. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I was telling Richard before we started recording, like, if you play as a sorcerer, it's just, I saw a meme once of the confused woman meme, and it had all the sorcerer spells, and it was like sorcerers during combat, and then there's that meme of the hand slapping a button, and it was thieves during combat, and it was just hide arrow, boom, easy, because once you get that upgraded, and you find some gear that lowers your critical hit threshold, or gives you advantage or something like that, you could easily do like 50 damage with that, and it's ridiculous. And then you find a bow, like with Astarion right now, I have a bow that has a chance to frighten enemies, which means they can't move and they take disadvantage on ability checks or whatever, but something like that. But so yeah, like every time I attack, it's basically a guaranteed hit with Astarion. It's gonna do somewhere between like a huge amount of damage and there's a possibility that they get frightened, and it's all in his like main attack. So and with your wife and the intelligence thing, it kind of and this is Baldur's Gate 3 did what Disco Elysium did, is just fail. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, you fail forward, like, keep going. And it's incredibly well-rounded. If you have low intelligence, that's fine, because there are a billion, and you have high dex, there are a billion dex rolls.
Yeah.
And if you have low dex and high wisdom, there's a billion wisdom rolls.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Most spells are going to be wisdom or dex. So.
and obviously depending on what class you are, obviously you want the class the stat that is your spell casting stat to be the highest. But like, no matter what configuration you have, unless you somehow purposefully make it bad, there's gonna be stuff that you find that you can take advantage of, and there's gonna be situations where it's like, oh man, this would be better if I was this class, and then there's gonna be situations where you just breeze through something because your class is exactly what your party needed to get through that. So it's like, figuring all that out and designing all that is just insane, and that's one of the things that makes Baldur's Gate 3 just so good. That's basically the only thing I've been playing. I just got done with one of the toughest boss fights in the game. I found you're gonna encounter all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah,
that you're gonna miss. My wife has played through the game. I think she's going through it her 5th time now.
Oh man.
And she was just watching a scene with me, a scene that she watches a lot because it involves Starion. But there was a line of dialogue, and she's like, I've never seen that line of dialogue. And she's played through the game like a gajillion times, and she watched other people play it, and she sees clips. So it's like, to still find little bits of dialogue that she's never seen before, it's just insane. And I also found a scroll. So because Gale is a wizard, I don't know if all...
Just wizards.
Yeah, just wizards. You can read the spell, you can read the scroll, and then you can cast it. It becomes part of your...
Everyone can cast it, but wizards can transcribe it into their spell.
Yeah, it can be.
Awesome.
It goes to their known spells. They don't have to...
Their spell
It's not
book,
a one-time use anymore. But I found this spell that was it summons a Deva, I think. Deva, which is like
It's an angel.
It's like Jesus with 6-pack abs, basically.
Nice.
And he has some really powerful attacks. But I found that scroll, and it was clearly like hey, you found this powerful scroll. Use it. Save it up.
Just write that down
Save
real
it up.
quick.
And that meme of that announcer who's like shaking his head and laughing. Yeah, okay, Larian. Hey, Gale, get over here real quick. Like, you're gonna want to read this puppy. So now it's like this like scroll that is super rare. I had Gale read it, and so now Gale has this super powerful summon that he can just cast. It's a level 6 spell, which is pricey, but it's a powerful summon. So there's all kinds of stuff, dude, that you're gonna find. Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited for you to get into that.
Yeah.
Save, because sometimes, I don't know, you'll realize that maybe you made it, you didn't quite understand what was going on, because it gives you so many options and there's so many things that you can do.
Yeah.
But I prefer to sometimes roll with the punches. Don't worry about, you're going to be rolling a lot, so you're going to be failing a lot, so don't worry about failing too many times. And it is a game that's like, if you play through it a second time one day, which is a huge time investment, because the first playthrough is going to be more difficult, because you're going to encounter combat enemies for the first time, and you're not going to know what they are. You're going to have to figure it out. Second time through, it'll be easier, because it's like, oh, I remember this room. There's bad guys hiding in here. Let me just spring this trap, and so it's super easy. But there's just so much stuff that you're gonna miss, or you're gonna find. Oh, man, I'm really excited. I'm really excited for you to play through it. And as a rogue, there's some interesting stuff in Act 1, some powerful stuff in Act 1 that you can get for rogues. Rogues like hit a plateau. I don't know. I think they hit like a plateau pretty quickly, but they're so powerful that it's just like, I don't know. They just get ridiculously powerful. Have you been playing anything, Connor? I'm sorry.
Baldur's Gate 3. There's an old adage about classes in D&D. It's fighters are linear, wizards are quadratic, and it's about how they scale up. Rogues are just a straight line up. They only get better. From the start, they only get better.
And that's the thing is, like, in Baldur's Gate 3, because it's a video game, certain classes I think are going to matter less. Because you can do a ton of stuff with stealth in Baldur's Gate 3, but you're still confined by it being a video game. Whereas in a tabletop setting, it's way more open-ended because you're just using the most complex computer known to man, the human mind. So it's like Rogue's stealth ability is more versatile in that sense because it doesn't have the same confines that a video game does. So I think, but that can't be Larian's fault because Larian can't make a video game as open-ended as tabletop sim as a tabletop game, but it got close with Baldur's Gate 3. Let me tell you, because it is ridiculous all the stuff you can do. Okay, is there anything else go ahead, Connor.
I will say, piece of advice for going forward: pay attention to the map as much as you can, because you will find secrets just by walking through an area. You'll see an area that you can get to, and then you'll just explore around and find how to get there.
Okay,
yep,
perfect.
Really. And it's running pretty good, right, on the deck?
Yeah, it's running well. It does when you dock it. Of course, it's crunchy because the resolution. It can't that big of a resolution, but I mean, other than that, yeah, it runs well.
Okay, I'm excited. Let's hit the ad. Thanks for listening. If you like our content, please consider subscribing or leaving a like and comment. You can find us at patreon.com/thegamingdiscourse. And our tiers are $2, $4, $7, and $10 and include getting your name in the video credits, early access, and access to our Discord server.
No. Drow.
Okay.
Oh, Drow. Nice. Okay, did you pick the Drow that follows Loth, the Spider Queen, or did you pick the Drow that they're like the rebellious Drow?
I did the rebellious one.
That's cool. That's my monk. In my headcanon, we're pals. We're buddies.
We're buddies from a different dimension.
Okay, we're going to go 2 VR stories here. One about Meta, one about Sony. As reported by Alex Heath at The Verge, Meta has laid off an unknown number of people after restructuring its Reality Labs division. Reality Labs will now be reorganized into 2 groups, Wearables, which is smart glasses, and Metaverse, which is Quest and VR. According to Heath, Meta CTO Andrew Bosworth said Meta's smart glasses were a much bigger success than the company expected, and, quote, we have the leading AI device on the market right now, and we are doubling down on finding a strong product market fit for wearable Meta AI, building a business around it, and expanding the audience. Our North Star to overlay digital content seamlessly onto the physical world remains the same, end quote. Bosworth also said that Meta is, quote, deeply committed to investing in Horizon as the core foundation of our social spatial Horizon OS and high quality experiences for both mixed reality and mobile. I do not understand how people can talk or write like that. In other news, Nicholas Sutrick at Android Central is reporting that Sony is making big cuts to VR investment. I'm going to read straight from the story here. Quote, my source was told that there will be very few opportunities for VR development at Sony going forward. Another source informed me that only 2 PSVR 2 games are in development at Sony. Given the state of the games industry with constant layoffs and studio closings, he's unsure how that will all play out. Okay, so I thought these 2 stories were interesting for sort of different reasons. Do you guys have any high level takes? Because I'm sort of the VR annoying guy.
A couple weeks ago when we had talked about the PSVR 2 PC adapter, we had talked that like, oh, maybe they're going to be announcing more titles in the future. Guess not. I guess that was the wrong assumption.
Which I don't quite understand. And this is nothing against Android Central, nothing against Nicholas Sutrick, but I don't typically read them, so I don't necessarily know if people consider them like a good outlet or anything. I don't know, so I'm neutral on the matter. I don't read them, so I don't know. But that would be confusing considering, one, that they just released a headset that they would already be kicking it to the curb. 2, that, this PC VR adapter, I think is a good thing, but it's not a good thing if you don't make games.
Yeah.
So with with PSVR 2, I think PlayStation has an opportunity, and especially with Meta seemingly they're splitting Reality Labs in half, and half of the team is going to be focusing on trying to replace the phone over the next 10 years or something, right? Because that's what you want to do with wearables. If you can't, that's my interpretation of the situation, is if you can't beat, Apple and Google at phones, because Meta can't, what you can do is you can make glasses that replace certain features that a phone can do, So if you can tell glasses to take a picture, you don't need to take out your phone to take a picture anymore, right? So all of a sudden you're replacing certain functions of your phone with something that sits on your head. I don't necessarily think it's a good idea. I don't trust Meta with that kind of idea. No. I think it's eye-rolling that they're already talking about like implementing VR when VR is this technology that nobody knows what to do with, or nobody knows what it really is. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of nonsense out there. So to already be rolling it into this like idea for your future of a certain product is just eye-rolling and annoying. But for Sony, I don't know. It's really disappointing, because I think Sony has an opportunity, and I think Sony has the capital to invest more heavily into VR. So if they're not doing it, then I think they're just not. They don't. I don't know. They don't see it as worthwhile investment, and I would disagree on a philosophical stance. Because we do know that Sony is pushing mobile and they're pushing live service, and those are two areas that I don't think they should be pushing. And I don't know if they're going to be successful in that. And also we know that and we've said this a billion times, for the past 10 years. Sony's success has come from single-player games, first-party titles, that kind of stuff. This year, one of the biggest games this year is going to be Helldivers. It's not a first-party game, but Sony published it. So it's like, and I guess Helldivers is kind of we'll talk about Helldivers in a little bit. It's kind of a live service, but it's not like a intense live, like it's not the
it's not a traditional live service game.
It's not the live service that Sony wants.
Yeah,
I don't think they want I don't know, Call of Duty. Or they have Destiny, but they want another Call of Duty, or they want like a FIFA or something like that. I guess they have the show, but the show isn't as big as FIFA. But so it's like, like Helldivers 2 is a live service, but I don't think it has the same potency that they actually want. But yeah, so I don't know. I think there is a market that wants more VR games. I think Meta came into the market, inflated it with a low-cost headset, and then didn't support that headset in a way that was steered toward that what VR does well, and that's video games. And it's because Meta isn't a video game company. So then what happened was a bunch of people bought a Quest 2, thought it was neat, played Beat Saber, and now there's a bunch of Quest 2s out there collecting dust. Now, let's say in a different universe, it's Sony that releases a standalone headset that you can play, or you can plug into your PlayStation, whatever, right? That context is different, because Sony, PlayStation is a video game company. They're attached to a larger hardware company, but they have more of an emphasis on video games, and there's more eyes all the time on ads on video games in PlayStation, right? So I said this in a video I made, like Ubisoft was unhappy with Assassin's Creed Nexus, forgetting the fact for a second that they decided to make it a Meta exclusive.
Yeah.
Which, in the face of declining user retention, Ubisoft made a conscious choice to put this game on a platform that is struggling for user retention, whatever.
They bought a ticket for the Titanic on the iceberg.
Yes, exactly.
That's a great analogy.
Yes, they knew about the Titanic and they bought the ticket anyway, and then they're acting like they didn't know shit was going to go down. But if Assassin's Creed Nexus if it had banner ads on Steam, if it had banner ads on the PlayStation Store, if it were shown off and PlayStation State of Plays, nobody gives a shit about Meta's, whatever they're called, Meta Connects, where they walk out there and the least charismatic man in the entire world goes out there and talks about Meta. Nobody watches those. Nobody cares. But everybody loves watching PlayStation whatever directs, PlayStation State of Play. So it's like, if PlayStation pushed VR in that way, I think you'd have a different story on your hands. But they don't. But now they could, and I don't know if they're going to. and I don't know. The direction of PlayStation just bothers me because, yeah, I'm not a fan. Have we talked about Concord?
Yeah, just a little bit, but I mean, our opinions are very obvious. It's just the same as everybody else's.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, they shouldn't put too much faith in live service anymore, I think. But I think that, VR is a little too expensive this go around for folks. I think that when the PSVR 1 was as successful as it was, I think it sold over 4 million units. Which doesn't sound successful, but that's successful. It was still kind of like in this early days where people were like kind of curious about VR, and now people know what they want out of VR, or they know if they like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it doesn't help that the general consensus online, I'm looking for a VR headset, MetaQuest. That's the one you get. $200 cheaper, $100 cheaper, wireless. Can play pretty much all the games out there. But for PSVR 2, you have to invest in the PS5, then the VR 2. It's not wireless. It's impressive tech-wise, but then you don't have the games on it. The original PSVR games are not backwards compatible in VR 2.
Nope.
So there's that large amount of products that you don't have on your console, which could have gave them a leg up and maybe had a temporary boost in either sales or longevity. But now they have to find a way to either kill it quietly or end up supporting it, but understand the scope. Like they can't make another Horizon Call of the Wild. Like they have to like kind of, is that what it was called? Call
of the Mountain.
Call of the Mountain.
Yeah.
They have to like, they're going to now have to think smaller if they want to at least keep the PSVR 2 around.
Yeah. And I think, Horizon Call of the Mountain was, I didn't think it was very good. I thought it was fine, but it was impressive from a visual standpoint. But I think like one thing, I don't know, if I'm Sony, one thing I think is you don't need to put that much money into good VR games. What's that? What's the roguelike that we like? World War II.
The Light Brigade.
Light Brigade, right? Light Brigade is like there's 2 polys in that game. That's all the polys there are.
Yeah.
But it's a really fun, really solid VR game that I legitimately enjoy. And I don't know how much it cost to make that game. I'm sure it was expensive. I'm going to speculate it was nowhere near as expensive as Horizon Call of the Mountain. So it's like you can invest in VR games, and you also don't need to have AAA level visuals in VR. Some of the best VR games I've played, the fidelity isn't that great. VTOL blows my mind every time I get into it and play it, and it's not the best looking game in the entire world. It was made by a single developer for a while.
There's also, I mean, we talk about this all the time, but nobody has taken the time to buy a license of an old first person game and just convert it into VR, like the BioShock games.
I was just looking up like Silent Hill games.
Silent Hill, yeah. I mean, there are great mods for the Resident Evil games out there to make them into VR. What other games do we? I mean, of course, we've seen the success from Half-Life 2, Wolfenstein, really Doom 3, all these games. That could breathe life again into not just VR and VR experiences, but those who are curious about it as well and want to replay their favorite games in like a different light.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know why Resident Evil VR is exclusive on the PlayStation. Obviously, I'm sure you can mod it, but modding isn't, again, having a banner ad on Steam. I don't know why it is. I think that's been sort of a misstep because those are 2 of the best VR games in existence. So it's like 2 of the best VR games are locked to a platform that I'm going to assume is probably 3rd behind Meta and PC VR users when it comes to how many people are constantly using it. So that's an issue. Also, I think if you're somebody who I probably said this a few minutes ago, but I think this is important. If you're somebody looking at the VR market, I think you have to understand that the user retention issue with Quest, I do not think is an issue of VR itself. I think that's an issue of the company of Meta itself, because Meta just, yes, you have your Asgard's Wrath 2, you have your Assassin's Creed Nexuses, you have your good games and stuff like that, but it's all the convenience for meta because that's not really their goal.
Yeah.
Whereas if PlayStation were the shepherd there, those games were the most important thing. They get the they get the support, they get all that, right? So it's like you have to look at that market, and I think it's underserved, which I've said a billion times before. But yeah, I was gonna. Oh, there was the Prey Dog mod. I don't know if you guys have seen this, the Prey Dog Unreal mod for the Unreal Engine, which apparently there's this group of modders that they released this mod, and I think it's Unreal, where basically any game made in Unreal can be ported into VR.
Oh wow!
And it's like it's complicated, I guess, but they have their own Discord server and stuff, and they're able to do it relatively easily, right? So there's tons of opportunities out there.
That's kind of like RE Engine is the same way apparently.
Yeah.
And the mod that guy made for Resident Evil 2 could just be simply applied to 3, Resident Evil 3 and a couple others. And then I think the group, their independent group, Dr. Beef, they're the ones who did Turn to Castle Wolfenstein and Doom 3 before Bethesda did their own Doom 3. Their system, anything that had an Android port, was able to VR-ified.
Interesting. I wondered, is there a VR hit? Wait, what's the meta again? What is that?
It's Android.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Android,
that. Yeah. I was gonna say, isn't there a connection there?
Yeah.
Okay, I completely forgot there. Okay. All right. Well, we'll move on then to talking about Helldivers. Richard,
yes.
what the hell's going on?
Eurogamer published a story a few days ago about Helldivers 2's player count. In May, Eurogamer also reported that Helldivers 2 player count was down 60%. This time, Eurogamer cited Forbes' Paul Tassi for first pointing out the decline. Paul Tassi said, quote, Helldivers 2 was meant to be Sony's big proof of concept it can make a big impact in the live space. But a few months after launch, the game has seen extremely steep declines. Helldivers 2 was viewed as a proof of concept that Sony really could break out and move into the live space with great success. But the last few months have proven how hard that success can be to maintain for even a short amount of time, given the well-established competition in these spaces.
So I wanted to have a conversation about like player counts because we see them a lot now. We see them in the context of single player games. We see them in the context of multiplayer games. I think there are a few angles to this story. One is like how games press should report or contextualize player numbers. That's one angle. Another angle is should player count matter at all? Another one is how player counts do matter in the context of live services, because if you are somebody who's counting monthly active users, the player count does matter regardless of what we feel about the previous 2 points. And then third is in Helldivers 2's case, I think Sony's mismanaged things here and there, especially with like the PSN and stuff. And I don't know how much that has added to the dwindling player count. But yeah, so considering those angles, this isn't something that we've discussed on the show before, but yeah, player counts.
I think it's another weapon just in the next phase of generational like arguments. In the early 90s, of course, Sega versus Nintendo, etc. We still have console wars, but it has become another thing that console war contributors use against each other. And much like there's a time, and people made memes of it, in I think 2019, 2020 Fortnite, where you were made fun of if you had the default skin. If you didn't have any other skins, which is interesting because if I see somebody with the default skin, I'm running away because those guys are usually the trolls and really good at the game. But I think that we have, or the collective like audience for these games, I've decided to use something like that to kind of proclaim that nobody cares about X game anymore, and your console or your platform of choice sucks because that game you heralded as this thing is dead, quote unquote. And I think that's simply untrue. However, how many numbers was it like 80,000 people playing at the moment, I think? I'll probably have to check those numbers. But that's fairly healthy considering how many games are released every single day. And that's not even getting into the conversation of how many people jump into a game, enjoy it as much as they can for as long as they can, and then decide to move on to other stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Like all of us have, in some way, shape, or form. I'm sorry, 36,000 it looks like, or 32,000. But like Helldivers is still awesome. I think it's a great game still. But I have other things to do, and I can't sit there playing the same game over and over. And I think it also there's credence to the fact that they haven't really released anything new yet in the game. Sure, they release new weapons, new armors, and that's great, but there are no, there's that third faction. Yeah, third faction that still hasn't come around that they were like teasing since the beginning of the game. And I don't know if they can like fix more, or I don't know if they can introduce like new planet types or new weather types and stuff that they haven't already. But I think that's another thing that people get hung up on, is because they can't. They have to. Eventually, you're going to be doing the same thing over and over. And as fun as Helldivers is, that's happened with Left 4 Dead. Like Left 4 Dead, no matter how neat it is, no matter how randomized it is, you're still doing the same thing over and over, and people would get tired of that and move off to the side. And the same thing, the game is dead or player count dropped. The same discussion was had with Power World.
Was it?
Yeah, because Power World, explosion of people playing the game. People love it, and now there's about, I think, the same amount of people playing. But the discussion is, Power World's a dead game, nobody's playing it. And not necessarily the case. More people are playing it than Helldivers do.
128,000.
But it's just weird that we have this discussion, why we're hung up on it when new games get released all the time and people move on. That's just what we do.
Yeah, so I think I do think from a press, I don't know, from a games press angle, I do think stats like this need to be contextualized somehow, because your video game executives care because they care about the metrics, and this is a reflection of the metrics. So if you're trying to educate an audience or keep an audience in tune with what's going on and what companies are doing, then you need to know if player counts drop significantly over some number of months. You should know about that, because that's going to affect the decision making, however stupid it may be, of giant stupid companies that are stupid, like PlayStation and other stupid companies. But when it comes to whether or not this is an actual issue, like in reality, divorced from the stupid executives at those stupid companies, that's where I think the discussion becomes trickier, because it's like, I don't know, I got my fill of Helldivers, and maybe I'll come back. But isn't that how, like, things don't last forever? I don't know. And eventually new things come along. And I think there's a huge chunk of people that are like us that move on and play other things, or play games that they have in their library that they've never played, but they just move on with their lives. I don't know. And I guess maybe we all have games we go back to. I go back to Squad. You go back to Honkai Star Rail. I don't know what you do, Connor, but
UI simulators.
Yeah, sure. So there's games we go back to, but I don't know. If we're, it just worries me that if we just pass on the number, if people just report the number without contextualizing any of that nuance, then it passes it off as if it is sort of a legitimate thing to be worried about, in the sense that, again, divorced from the corporate context, that it is a legitimate thing to be worried about, when I don't necessarily think it should be. That's just the natural way things go. Yeah. Player counts explode and then they dwindle, and then that's just how it is, and that's what should be expected. That's, and it's also weird that I like Paul Tassi. I think he's a good writer. He's started his own YouTube channel. He covers a lot of Destiny. I think it's weird that he said that Helldivers 2 was viewed as proof of concept that Sony could really break out and move into the live service space with great success, because it was a huge surprise when it released. Nobody thought that it was going to go viral and everybody was going to play it, right? Yeah. I don't, like Sony, did Sony even know that was going to happen? I don't think so. So to me, I don't think, and maybe he's saying that from maybe he knows something that I don't, but I never got the impression that Sony expected Helldivers 2 to be the evidence that it was ready to handle live service games. Mm-hmm. Because Helldivers 2, while it is a live service game, and is not a like Call of Duty type live service game. It's sort of live service light in a way. It doesn't have the same kind of monetary systems.
Diet live service.
It doesn't have the same kind of economy. You're not looting things, so it's like once you unlock the weapon you like, you're there, which is fine. That's a totally valid way of designing a game, and games should, for the next billion years, be designed that way. But when it comes to that specific, like we need this entire thing to be designed around people somehow spending money continuously, Helldivers doesn't necessarily facilitate that. So it's weird to say that was the game that was supposed to prove Sony could do live service stuff, because I feel like I don't think anyone thought that. So yeah, I do think what you said, Richard, about, because I do see like the dead game thing too, and it bothers me because it's like a weird insult, and it's like, who are you insulting? You're just mad. I don't know. It's like that really bothers me. I hate that that's like a new cultural thing, that because so many people have grown up with like Fortnite now, that if a game doesn't have a bunch of people playing it, it's somehow worth less or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I think that's just a sucky way of looking at a medium, of looking at video games. That like a game's worth only comes in how many people are playing it and whether or not it'll be updated for as long as you want to play it. And once you're done, you could give a shit about what happens to it. And that really, really bothers me. Because I don't think that's good for the medium. I don't think that's good for video games. I think that's just childish, and that can be tossed in the trash can with like arguing which console is the best or whatever, you know? Even if you throw those in the trash can, people still yank it right back out and unfurl it and, whatever. So yeah, I don't think there's ever going to be like Call of Duties there probably is. Like outside of a mobile context, I don't know if there's ever going to be, you have like the big three, Call of Duty, Fortnite, and Roblox. And then you have sports games, but those are sort of a different market. But I don't know if any other game is ever going to overtake anything like that or become anything like that. Those have really specific like markets, and they came to market at a really specific time. And Call of Duty was popularized in like 2007 or whatever with Modern Warfare 2. So it has sort of the same name recognition that Madden does now. So it's like, if Call of Duty came out in 2017, it'd be a totally different story. But people have just heard of it. Because it's the one basketball players play. Yes. They are the what's that?
They're the Rockefellers.
They're the Rockefellers. Or they're the I'm trying to remember all the characters from Gilded Age, but I can't think of any of the goddamn characters from Gilded Age. It starts with an A. Who is a rich family in New York? Come on, Connor, you know this.
I do.
During the Gilded Age, started with an A. Lady Astor. The Astors. Come on.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Read an American history book, guys. Or watch a TV show.
Excuse you, I'm unliterate.
Or read a TV show, or read it. Watch a TV show like The Gilded Age, okay? Carrie Coon in The Gilded Age. Phenomenal. She is phenomenal. Sorry, I don't know why I'm talking about this. Season 3 soon. Do we
sponsored?
That'd be a weird sponsorship, but I would take it. Yeah. I would take it. It's a really bad show, but it's pretty good. By the way, there's two characters. There's two characters in Gilded Age. Spoilers for Gilded Age, if anybody cares. Marion and Larry, right? So for a while they're like friends, and and there's a couple times Marion's about to get married, and Larry, he's like off in the distance. He gives a few like wistful looks. You know, he's like, "Oh man, that girl that I love, she's getting married. There's nothing I can do about it." You know. But anyway, Marion ends up breaking up with that guy because she didn't love him. So Larry comes and he just sweeps her off her feet. So all the fans, you know, you have to have a name for all the couples. Larian. Boom. Yeah. The best name for a couple ever. Just because they made Baldur's Gate 3. Anyway, do we have tidbits? Are we
Yes.
ready?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, go ahead. What if I told you, in this world, there are bits, and there are tids, and Richard is the only man who can put them together into tidbits.
In a QA report published today by Nintendo of Japan, Shuntaro Furukawa talked about the upcoming launch of the new Nintendo Switch successor, often called Switch 2. He said that the problems that the original Switch had because of lack of semiconductors won't be a problem for the new console. He also talked about combating the reseller market by saying, quote, "As a measure against resale, we believe that the most important thing is to produce a solid number of products that can meet customer demand, and this idea has not changed since last year. In addition to that, we are considering whether we can take some measures within the scope permitted by laws and regulations based on the circumstances of each region," end quote.
Okay, well, that sounds good to me. And considering that the Switch 2 is going to be not as hardware intensive as the previous consoles, you would think it seems to stand to reason that it would be easier to produce more because it's going to be a cheaper console. That could be totally incorrect, though. I don't know. But if the console's not as expensive to manufacture because you don't have as many complex and expensive parts, that means you can make more units, which means there's more out to sale.
Yeah.
So the economics sort of work out there. Console resellers.
Welcome.
Worst people on the planet.
Happens every time, unfortunately. Sega sees a net loss of 6.6 billion yen due to the business restructuring in Europe and canceled games. That equates to around $41 million. Games performed very well, specifically Like a Dragon, Sonic Superstars, and Phantasy Star Online 2. But the company's operating profit suffered a sharp decline as a result of the structural reform implemented at Sega Europe. Due to the changes in the market and the profitability downturn, Sega sold off developer Relic Entertainment while cutting approximately 240 employees across Sega Europe studios.
What does Sega have any big developers in North America?
No.
No?
I'm not off the top of my head that I know of.
Do you know if they've ever had any? There's Sega of America. Do they make anything? I don't know. I'm not up on my Sega.
I don't know if Sega created them or if they just partnered with them, but Traveler's Tales, which ended up becoming TT Games, which they do all the Lego games.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But I mean, they're no longer with Sega. Like they split a long time ago.
Oh, okay. I was just curious. Anyway.
But, yeah, not that I know off the top of my head. Actually, the only thing I can think of that I know Sega owns is Atlas.
They're British.
Oh, they are British? Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Jeez.
We don't need them anyway. You can keep King George. Just kidding. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's almost July 4th. So
they did Toy Story first, and then they did Sonic.
And Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Wait, I thought Crash Bandicoot was Naughty Dog.
Until Universal bought it. Universal owned Crash. Naughty Dog just developed it. And then...
Hold on, I'm confused. Did Crash Bandicoot not start with Naughty Dog?
It did, but it wasn't owned
I don't want to stress you out.
No, it wasn't owned by Naughty Dog. Universal owned it.
Okay.
So developed, Naughty
So
Dog
being published by Sony, then Universal, then Vivendi, then Activision.
I got to reverse. Universal bought it from Sony, 2001 with Crash, Wrath of Cortex, and later ones.
Okay, got it. Cool, got it. Okay, sorry. Anyway, played a lot of Crash games when I was a kid. So.
Great series.
Crash Team Racing, so much fun.
Great game. Hard too. Less than a month after joining work on Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake, Ubisoft Toronto lays off 33 employees, Ubisoft said in a statement to PC Gamer. It read, quote, Ubisoft Toronto has decided to conduct a targeted realignment to ensure it can deliver on its ambitious roadmap, a company representative said in a statement provided to PC Gamer. Fortunately, this will impact the roles of 33 team members who will be leaving Ubisoft. We are committed to providing comprehensive support to them, including severance and career assistance to help them through this transition.
Whatever. Just this year has just sucked when it comes to layoffs, when it comes to people losing their jobs, and I'm not going to believe a word of it. I'm going to go ahead and say that a massive chunk of them have been avoidable. There were other things that could probably be done, but the industry is not interested in those answers. Yves Jamont should be fired.
Yep.
And yeah, that's all I have to say about Yves.
Tarred and feathered.
I don't know about that, but definitely fired.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
That's it for Tidbits.
Okay. Do we don't have MP? We don't have a Circana?
No, he pushed them back because there's some new information that's going to be put into it if I read correctly. So it's a lot more to gather. So
alrighty,
it's going to take some more time.
We'll have Matty Ice on the show next week.
Yeah.
Follow us on Twitter. No, don't follow us there. Go to youtube.com/gamingdiscourse, patreon.com.
Almost got it.
I know. It's been the cadence. Got to change it with the cadence.
Been so for years, I know.
It's just gotta get that cadence. Gotta change it up. Patreon.com/thegamingdiscourse 247 $10 gets your name in the video credits. Gaming Discourse FM. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.